Hey, good afternoon or good morning from wherever you're joining us. We will get started with today's webinar here in a few moments. Once again, thanks for joining us. We'll be getting started with today's webinar here in about a minute or so. All right. Well, again, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining us. My name is Marty De Los Santos. I'm an account executive with Qvinci, and we'll be leading today's webinar on the topic how Qvinci can boost your bottom line. For folks that have already joined online, of course, you can see that the IFA Convention is occurring later this month in San Antonio, which is right down the road from us. We will be there. See our booth number, and we'll after the convention time on Sunday. We will actually also be hosting a reception that night, and you can see our Charles Nagel, our CIO and one of the founders of Qvinci, will be hosting a roundtable on February 23rd as well. And of course, there's other upcoming webinars that are scheduled for later this month and even some next month. And on our website, you'll find a whole list of webinars throughout the year and what the schedule is there as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. A little bit about what we're going to cover today. About Qvinci. What is financial reporting software? What problems does it solve for franchises? How does Qvinci solve these problems? Of course, how does that help your bottom line? The key topic for today. We'll dive into the application itself. Focusing on some key features, and of course, how highlight areas of weakness, strength, and opportunity for your business as well. And then we'll also dive into a Q&A. So a little bit about who we are. Qvinci, we're founded in 2007. Again, we're headquartered in Austin, Texas. So everything pretty much takes place here, including development. Back in 2011, we became a reporting partner for the Intuit franchise program, and invented and patented technologies that others have spent years and millions of dollars trying to create. Basically, we were able to create technology regarding consolidation and even technology around our account mapping that we did receive a patent on last year, and some other companies have attempted this with their solutions, including Intuit, which is why we did become one of their partners in 2011. And of course, we do have some additional patents that are currently pending. So some names, some businesses that you may be familiar with that do utilize Qvinci. Again, we are not industry specific. We're really industry agnostic. So whether it's a franchise or accounting space, and regardless of vertical, as you can see, there's many different verticals that are represented here, from your religious archdiocese of Baltimore to food service, restoration, home services, fitness, retail. I mean, we cover the gamut. Again, because we're talking about financial reporting, and numbers are numbers. So numbers are important to any business, be it profit or nonprofit, and we help in that arena. Okay, so we're going to trigger an initial question. Just please address the initial poll here. I think we're going to skip the poll. So a little bit out. What is financial reporting? So it automates the preparation of financial statements. Of course, we'll talk further into exactly what it means with our automated syncing process and ability for single-click reporting out of Qvinci. Plugs the gaps that you may have in your accounting software. Again, what Qvinci is really providing. There's multiple different kind of reports. Consolidated reports is a big item that we hear as a gap. Being able to really see true comparisons, benchmarking, which we'll dive into today. And of course, the benefits, it saves time. Is one thing you'll see, especially in today's demonstration. Reports can be generated in a fraction of a second. So regardless of how many locations or entities you're wishing to report upon in a consolidated report, it really saves a lot of time with how we can help there, which of course saves you money. We're going to give you some useful information, some information that's really coming from your accounting applications, that's going to give you presented in a format that allows you to make qualified business decisions. So it helps reduces your risk, and of course improve your efficiency. Again, time. Really save time with the Qvinci application. So what problems does it solve for franchises? Poor visibility into financials. Something that we hear quite often from franchisors is, it's really a hassle, or it's really a challenge to obtain the financial data from our franchisees. Whether they are, mailing in information, faxing in, emailing, hand delivering, or providing just receipts for sale. So getting information that really doesn't create a good visible way to see what's happening with that specific franchisee, and in some instances not getting anything at all. Slow or non-existent access to data, again, ties back into how quickly are you able to obtain the information that you're receiving from your franchisees, and is it complete? Are you really seeing the full picture, or is it just point of sale? Is it just sales information, not really seeing how they're performing when it comes to their expenses? Difficulty consolidating, again, ties back into the first two items. Based on how you're receiving the information, how easily is it for you to say, okay, I want to take a look at my entire environment? How quickly can you do that? How can you really compare one to the other? Inaccurate data, as well as fraudulent information there as well. And speaking of fraud, just to be clear, when we do sync your financial information from your franchisees, we're not looking at anything that could be fraud sensitive. We're not ever going to pull, Social Security numbers or other, fraud sensitive data. We're just looking at the information that's going to be, uh, uh, presentable in a P&L or a balance sheet for that matter. So how does Qvinci solve those problems? So automated collection, consolidation, reporting of up-to-date financial data. Again, we have created automated syncing processes with QuickBooks, both their desktop solutions and online solutions, with Zero accounting as well. And we can also sync up with Excel, but from an automated standpoint with QuickBooks. So for example, with QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks, and with Zero, both of which are online solutions, we will have an automated sync that occurs at 2 a.m. Central Standard Time. So for the end user, there's really nothing else they have to do. Once we go through the initial setup process and linking their files to Qvinci, then the sync is just going to take place automatically. So we reduce the burden that's needed from the franchisees to send their information to the franchisor, and thus also reducing the amount of time needed by the franchisor to call and ask for and try to retrieve that information. For QuickBooks desktop solutions, Premier, Enterprise, Pro, the way those are occurred, it is an automated sync. So the first time a contributor, which is somebody who will be adding information to the file, opens up that file during the day, they are also connected to the internet, then the system will automatically sync in the background. So there's, again, nothing else that has to be done as far as, setting up reminders or having to always call to say, hey, your quarterly information is expected or your monthly information is expected. The sync will take place. So really real-time access to stakeholders. Our solution is a SAS solution. It's a web-based, so it's anytime access as long as you're on a device that is web-enabled and you obviously have access to the internet. So again, you can be sitting on a beach at a hotel in Florida with Wi-Fi on your tablet, be able to pull up reports about your business with Qvinci. And of course, an extensive array of business intelligence tools and features, which is really what we'll dive in today, from our dashboards to our reporting features, including some new features that we just released last week that will really help to paint the picture of, hey, once you have the information, what can you now do with it to help boost your bottom line? So how does that help the bottom line? Again, the information is up to date and accurate. So what does that promote? It promotes improved communication. So again, improved communications within a franchisee location, how they can have their own internal communications, or even from the franchisor down to the franchisee of, hey, I see what you're doing here that's increased your levels of income from past last year this time to this year this time. Great. Let's talk about that further. Maybe we can spread that out across the environment. Focus goal alignment. Really there are tools within the application that will help to drive target areas or threshold areas to really set in place what goals you're trying to reach for your organization to really become a better achiever. Again, it does create more time for proactive business planning and really more time for best practices. So it really promotes best practices. Once you start doing something that becomes routine that you realize is helping your bottom line, chances are you're going to continue to take those similar actions, day to day, week to week within your businesses. So key features. So we're going to dive into the application, but here's really the key features that we're going to look at today: benchmarking, ranking, Proforma, custom report builder, and email alerts. All right. So we're looking at the Qvinci application. I'm logged into our demo site. A couple things with Qvinci. One, we want to make it personal for you as well and for your location. So up in the top left, we see Qvinci. We can white label this to have your company name or your brand name appear here as well. I'm currently looking at a demo company that we've got called Multi-Store Franchise. And so we're looking at the dashboard. You may hear some of us here at Qvinci term this as really the coffee and donuts view. It's a quick view that each user can have to really help them to know what's really happening with the business. There are widgets that we have in place on the dashboard, and each user can determine which widgets they want enabled or disabled and where they want them to line up on their own specific dashboard. dashboard. Again, quick view, take a quick look at it, and then move on. For the folks that really want to dive in deeper, of course, then we'll get into reporting and some other tools that we mentioned. So I'm going to first start off with reporting. All right, so again, the steps are that the way the information comes into Qvinci, we've set up these linking and syncing with your different locations. You know, if they're QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online or Xero, then we have automated syncing processes for those. If your locations are utilizing another application or just Excel, then we can take a manual sync of Excel as well. But even if you have a mixture across your environment, once all that information comes into Qvinci, we can still consolidate from different sources as well. I'm just going to clear these real quick. Give me 1 second. All right. So again, I have like about 30 locations that make up this particular demo company called Multi-Store Franchise. And again, even if all 30 were, 10 were using QuickBooks Online, 10 were using, some version of QuickBooks Desktop, 5 were using Xero, and the other 5 were just, syncing Excel. Again, once all the information comes into Qvinci, we can still give you consolidated reports, benchmarking reports across that entire environment. So from a reporting standpoint, I'm just going to start off with a P&L report. I know last week we walked through an overview of the application, a quick overview of the application, but really want to dive into one of the key reporting features that really helps to boost your bottom line. One is the custom report builder. One thing that we heard from our existing clients and prospective clients is, they would really looking for a way to define or create their own key performance indicators or KPIs. Again, and those can be, as you know, unique from organization to organization as far as, what are the true areas that, that business owner may be looking at that's really going to help to drive, his or her decisions about, future business items, growth items, or where they need to be better at within their organization. So I'm going to quickly show how that can be done. So just going to build a report. Let's say I want it for the last 3 months. Just going to build this quickly so we can dive into the custom report builder. Again, consolidated report across all these locations that was created very quickly. Up on the top right, I can export this report to PDF, Excel, but I want to do a memorize and customize. So I'm going to call this a test report so I can quickly, easily find it under my memorize report area. As soon as I do so, again, because off the P&L and off the balance sheet, you can create custom reports. So here's where our clients have found this tool to be very helpful and very useful. So they can start off with your initial report, and then from here it becomes in a spreadsheet format, similar to what you would find with Excel. It's not exactly Excel, but very similar. So I can add columns, add rows, delete rows. Maybe everything I wanted to do is really related around the income within the organization that I want to really track. So I can say by clicking here, I want to get rid of anything that is not income related. Again, pretty simple to do so. Just a matter of coming in here and putting an X on the things that you don't need. I'm not going to go through it just from a time perspective, but you get under picture and hit this X. It's now going to delete those rows. I could do the same thing here if I wanted to get rid of this particular column. Then I can also add rows, add columns to the application. If I want to add a column at the very end, click the plus sign. I can call this whatever I want at my KPI. And then I can come in here and add my formulas to the appropriate rows that I'm tracking. It's pretty simple. I'm just going to create a simple one here just to show you what's available. So let's say I wanted to create a sum starting with total income. And maybe I want to divide it by 3 and multiply it by the number of trucks, or multiply it by some other multiplier. Or maybe I want to create a column that shows square footage of this location, because that's what I'm basing my KPI off of. Whatever the case could be, you can be very creative with your formulas. Hit apply, and now I've got my formula here, and I can copy this formula to other fields within the application, within this spreadsheet as well. Just a matter of hitting select, selecting my formula column, formula field, I want to copy it. I want to paste it going up, and that quickly. And if I'm done with the report, hit done. It now becomes a report that's under my memorized list. I called this test report. So tomorrow I come in, I want to take a look at the same report, hit test report. And because I selected last 3 months, this is going to be a rolling report. So, come next month, it's going to be looking at December, January, February. So it'll be a rolling report that I can continually get KPIs based on whatever, formula and other columns I've included. That is, even if it's static information that I'm adding, that I want to include in my calculations, I can include that here as well. But again, the key thing there is I'm getting my KPIs, whether it be an income related, expense related, or what's really important for you. And this is giving me information that I now can use to say, okay, well, what can I do tomorrow? What can I do in 3 months, in 12 months? What should I be able to expect to do next year? Should I add 5 more employees? Is this kind of information that will help enable that kind of decision? Other tools within the application, including in reporting, is benchmarking. So we're going to take a look at peer benchmarking. Again, similar to what we just did before, now I'm selecting, okay, what am I'm going to base this off of? Well, I'm going to go ahead and base it off the P&L, and I want to base it off of the top 10%. And let's say I just want to, take a look at last calendar year. So the peer benchmarking is good for both the franchisor or even the franchisee when looking, trying to make a comparison. For the franchisor, they can take a look at all their locations that have visibility to and see how each location is performing compared to whatever selection you want to make. But what if I'm an individual franchisee? How does this benefit me? So I'm going to filter this to I'm going to select just the Austin location, so I can run this report as if I were just the owner of the Austin location, which that means my visibility is only to Austin. I cannot log in to see any of my peers. No other numbers are visible to me. I can still do my comparison to the top 10% within my environment, though. I'm going to build this report. So here's the top 10%. 3 of the 26 locations in my multi-store franchise are represented. Here's the average of their numbers, and here's me. Now, I have no idea whose numbers these represent, where they came from, but I can see how I'm doing versus the top 10%. And I could have taken this a step further to say, you know what, I wanted to see percent of revenue on here. I'm going to rebuild this real quickly. So now I can see percent of revenue, what they're doing and what I'm doing across the board. And maybe there are certain things like, well, gosh, I see that they're spending more on advertising than I may be spending on advertising. Could that be a reason why they are a top 10% performer? Or I see they're focusing their sales more in one area than where I am. Maybe I need to refocus what works across our environment. Say I need to really focus my sales in that area to be a performer more like them. So again, it's providing information in a useful format, giving the Austin location owner the ability to say, okay, I really want to make my comparison against my peers. Is there information here that could help me to really, formulate a right decision to help move my business forward, and again, to help improve my bottom line. And dovetailing onto this is a new tool that we just released last week called Proforma. So again, if I'm the Austin location, what Proforma is going to show me is how am I performing based on the vertical analysis of the top 10% of the environment in which I'm in. What this will do, it's going to keep a running total. So this black bar is going to move across this grid here as we progress through the month. So as of today, here's where I stand with my net income, other income items, cost of goods sold, and it's color-coded to show if it's green, that means I'm ahead of the curve. I am in line to meet the targets that are represented by the top 10%. If it's in red, then I'm behind it. So for example, from an income perspective, if the income line is red, then based on where I am in the month, it looks like I'm not going to get to where I need to be a top 10% in comparison to top 10%. And of course, with cost of goods sold and expense items, if they're in red, that means I may be going above what my top 10% colleague, peers are doing with their own businesses. So again, a quick way for me to see how am I doing across the board in comparison to the top 10%. So the peer benchmarking, again, showed me the numbers, and this has helped me to track against those numbers that you would see with the top 10%. So again, the idea is, yes, it's information, we're presenting it, but now we're presenting it in a manner that becomes useful for each individual location owner as to, okay, what can I do? Where am I performing well? Where am I not performing well? What can I change? And Qvinci is going to keep a running track for me, so I don't have to guess where I'm at. I can quickly log into Qvinci, take a quick look, and know where I stand for the month. Right. One other tool that has come into play as well, as far as keeping in line your, where things may be. Again, and part of it is we don't want to make sure that our users are always tied to Qvinci. How can we do that? Well, last week we also released our alerts. So as a user, I can either, based off my P&L or off my balance sheet, select account items that are key. Maybe these are the key performance indicator items that you may be creating custom reporting for as well. But I can just say, from a rebuild engine sales, I want to get a weekly alert that's month to date, and I'm looking at setting a target of a specific value. Whatever I want my value to be for this particular item. And maybe I go on down and there's other things, and I want to look at my newspaper advertising expenses. I also want to get a weekly, maybe this is more of a year to date, and maybe I have a threshold I want to stay under, whatever that number may be. So I can go down the line and set up alert items to be either on a daily or weekly alert. Again, target is, this is a point that I'm trying to reach. A threshold is, I'm trying to stay below here. Or I can say I want to get, just give me an alert on the actual numbers that are actually occurring with that specific account item. And I can go down the line and select as many account items that I want to select for my alerts. And once I save them, on those specific frequencies, I'm going to get a single alert, regardless if I have multiple alerts created within here. I'm going to get a single email that's going to show me all of my alerts. So how is that beneficial? I've told the system what's important to me. I've told the system what my targets and thresholds are, or if I just want to get actual numbers, and I don't have to, go to Qvinci to log in. If I'm getting email on my phone, I can, take a look at my phone, daily or weekly, whatever the frequency I've selected, and see that there's emails coming in from Qvinci with my alerts. Again, the key thing there is I'm not tied to the Qvinci application to get up-to-date information on what's really important to me and what's important for me to make a decision about my business, which again I'm trying to do to increase my bottom line within my business. One last item, I'm going back to reporting. I'm sorry for skipping back here. Is ratios. We've had ratio reporting within Qvinci for a while now. Just going to quickly click on this again. What is my frequency? And by the way, the frequency is determining what is your column header for this particular report. Is it by month, by quarter, by year, by location, and for what time frame do we want to report on this as well? I can build my report. So there, do offer some good frequency, good ratios here that you can run about your business, be it single location or multiple locations. We're showing me last month and this month cost of goods margin and so forth. These worked well again, but again, the custom report builder that we showed earlier does allow for additional functionality, additional custom report creation. Are you trying to create certain KPIs? Are you trying to do certain comparisons? Want to compare last October to this October, or compare last first quarter to this first quarter, things along those lines, which again could help to determine, okay, what does this tell me? Now, how can I use this to say where do I need to move forward with my business? All right, so just to kind of touch back on what features were really pinpointed for today, benchmarking. Again, the benchmarking, whether you are a single location or multiple locations, how do you compare yourself versus the overall average of your environment? How do you compare versus the top 10% or top 20%? And even be able to see the percent of revenue information there as well. The ranking report, which we just showed here, a moment ago, showing some margin information as well. Proforma, which of course, as you saw, takes that benchmarking to another step. Now, yes, I'm seeing this, but now how do I track myself against it? So how am I tracking against that top 10%? So again, you're utilizing real numbers within your environment to show how you're performing versus that top 10%. As you recall, it is color coded. Red if you're on track. Red if you're not on track. Green if you are on track to meet those numbers. Of course, the custom report builder, off of your P&L, off of your balance sheet, you can create your own KPIs. You can create your own period-over-period reporting as well with the custom report builder. But the key thing is really the KPIs, because that's what most folks are looking for, that are really going to help to drive future business decisions. And then of course the email alerts. Again, if you don't want to have to be tied to your Qvinci application all the time, but still want to be able to keep up to date with what's happening, set up your daily or weekly email alerts on the account items that are really most important for you. Define your targets, define your thresholds, or maybe just want to see actuals, and get those email alerts sent out to you. And each user can do that within the Qvinci application. All right, we're going to trigger a poll here out to you guys, just if you take a moment to address this question. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so now what? So again, today we really just focused on some key areas that we believe really help businesses, or that can help businesses to boost their bottom line. Providing information in a manner that can be useful for a business owner to boost their bottom line. So if you want to set up a personal demo with our sales team, here are the names of my colleagues and as well as myself. Of course, Roman, you can see what industries Roman serves as well. Caitlin and Rich, and of course my name's Marty. So you can see what different industries that we do serve, clients we serve here at Qvinci, and our email addresses. And we're happy to set up one-on-one presentations for each of you, whether you want to see a full start to finish demonstration of the product, or maybe even focus on certain key areas as well. And again, as another reminder, we will be at the IFA Convention in San Antonio later this month, the 20th through the 23rd. Of course, it is the largest annual convention for franchisees, franchisors, and suppliers that do support the franchise industry. So an inventor and one of co-founders, Charles Nagel, is hosting a roundtable on building strong franchisee relationships on Tuesday, the 23rd. And that's our booth number. And by the way, on the Sunday, which I believe is the 21st, we will also be hosting a social event after the convention that evening as well. All right, so do you want to open up for some Q&A? So through the panel, the GoToWebinar panel, there is a space where you can post questions, and feel free to do so. So one question that came in is asking if franchisees have to have the exact same chart of accounts, and the answer to that is no. One of the patents that we were awarded, the patent we awarded last year covered a couple of areas. One was our consolidation technology. The second was our account mapping technology. So Qvinci does have some standard chart of account templates that we have built into the application that can be utilized. So again, if you have certain locations that call it rent, some call it lease, some may call it office rent. When you're creating your consolidated report, the last thing you want to see is three different items on a consolidated report, one representing each item for your different chart of accounts. Well, our technology knows to look at things like that and combine those into a single chart of account item. Same thing, we look for other key phrases like rev versus revenue. So again, part of the patent that we were awarded last year covers that. Now, we do have organizations that are running standard chart of accounts across their environment, and if that happens to be yours, one thing we can do is actually take that and import that into your Qvinci account. So that is what you're following versus one of the templates that we've defined. So currently with our custom report builder, it currently covers our P&L and our balance sheet reports. Now, that being said, whenever you do open up the custom report builder and you get into the spreadsheet format, you can import information from another spreadsheet if you wish to do so. Like if there's other information on another spreadsheet that you want to include in the report that you see from a static standpoint, even if you are utilizing a rolling time frame like I did earlier, I showed last 3 months, but maybe you have that other column that shows a specific static number, whether it represents, number of, whatever for your particular business, and it's included as an item in the formula that you're creating. You can import that kind of information into a custom report. But again, currently the custom report functionality is currently supported for the P&L reports and the balance sheet reports. Now, you can still create memorized reports off of the other reports that we have listed. I have available at Qvinci, but you just cannot create a custom report off of those other reports. Question about users. So with Qvinci, you can have an unlimited number of users on the application. So we do not charge per user. So you can have as many users as needed, and you can set up visibility rights based on a user's location. So for example, maybe the franchisor has visibility to everything. A franchisee with a single location would only have visibility to their own individual numbers. Of course, they can still generate those peer benchmarking reports to see how they're performing against their peers. But again, their peer information, it is all held anonymous. Well, again, thank you everybody so much. I do appreciate you taking time today for today's webinar. Again, if you need any further assistance, more than happy to take your questions offline. Myself or any of my colleagues, happy to schedule any further demonstrations with you. Now, at the end of today's session, once we close it out, you are going to receive one final survey. If you don't mind just taking a moment just to address that final survey question, we would much appreciated. Again, thank you so much. And again, if you're going to be at IFA later this month, please come by our booth, say hi, visit with us, and we're happy to dive in deeper into the application with you there as well. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.